All right. So, hi there. So this is an introduction to our MLit in creative writing at Strathclyde for prospective 2025 and 26 applicants. So in this presentation, I'm going to outline the course and its aims. I'm going to talk about our staff and some student success stories, and then I'll give overviews of the course structure and the modules that we offer. So feel free to answer or ask any questions in the chat as I speak, but we'll have some time at the end as well. Now, to introduce myself, I'm Dr. Jessica Widner, and along with Dr. Raj Glass, I'm the co-convener currently of the MLit in creative writing, and I contribute to teaching and supervision on it as well, as you'll see. And next year, 2025-26, I will be the sole convener of the MLit. Okay, so on this degree, we focus on 6 different forms: the novel, the short story, creative nonfiction, poetry, and screenwriting. We also would do any hybrid form that contains elements of all of the above, including multimedia forms. So I think we consider this focus on interdisciplinarity and hybrid forms as a real strength of our program. So students are encouraged while on the MLit to experiment and to try new forms, and they have the full support and help of staff who are experienced in these areas. It's really been something great to see that we do get students who come in saying, oh, I just write fiction or I just do screenwriting, but then they might try something, they might try poetry, they might have a go at something else and find they really enjoy doing that as well. And our aim overall is to equip students for the contemporary literary landscape. So, what is the reality of being a writer in today's world? And also to develop the knowledge associated with different aspects of the creative industries. So, just a quick overview of the structure of the program. I'll go into it in a little more detail shortly, but we have a total of 7 classes over the year. So it's 6 20-credit classes, and then your major project over the summer, which is worth 60 credits. Now, 4 of the taught classes will be creative writing specific, and then 2 more would be an elective, which is chosen from an approved list of master's level courses offered by the university. So these will be in creative writing, English, or across the Department of Humanities. Now, there are some get outs here. So students would be able to exit the degree with a PG cert upon completion of the Shape of Stories 1 and 2 and the MADE project, or a PG diploma on completion of semesters 1 and 2. So we have a really wonderful team here at Strathclyde with varied experience both in research and creative work. And we're all working writers with practical industry skills in addition to being academics. So we've got Dr. Sarah Bernstein, who specializes in fiction and poetry, and she'll be teaching the writing life next year. She'll also be offering supervisions on the major project. In fact, as you can see, we will all be supervising on the major project, so I won't continue to repeat that. We have Dr. Raj Glass, who's currently co-convener of the MLit, and he specializes in creative nonfiction and fiction, and will be teaching The Shape of Stories 1 next year. And we have Dr. Andrew Meehan, and Andrew specializes in fiction and screenwriting, and he'll be teaching The Shape of Stories 2. Now, Dr. Maria Sledmere specializes in poetry and publishing, as well as experimental writing, and Maria teaches the Writer's Studio. And Stephen Virapin specializes in historical fiction and nonfiction, including biography. And then myself, Jessica Widner, I specialize in literary fiction and critical writing. So currently I'm the co-convener of the MLit, and I'll be the convener next year. And I also teach on the MADE project. So in this slide, you can see I've just made a little collage of some of our work, some of our publications. Just a selection of them, but as you can see, our specialisms range from historical and literary fiction novels to nonfiction, to poetry, and experimental creative critical writing, as well as screenwriting. So we're really in a good position to support and work with writers in all sorts of different forms and genres. I'm going to just talk a little bit about our postgraduate community as well as some celebrated Strathclyders because we're obviously very proud of this. So celebrated Strathclyders include some of Scotland's finest writers like Andrew O'Hagan, Ali Smith, Louise Welch, Margaret Elphinstone, Zoe Wycombe, and David Kinloch. And we've got many graduates who are now working as writers, including Craig Lamont, Katie Ailes, Gabriella Bennett, Stephen O'Shea, and Kenny Boyle. We have a recent MLIT student, or relatively recent, Lauren Ford, who's now doing a SAGSA-funded PhD in Aleister Gray studies. So she's working with the Aleister Gray Archive, and I'll talk a little bit more about our partnership with the archive soon. And our current postgraduate community includes writers like Sindhu Rajasekaran, who is the author of Smash the Patriarchy, and Graham Armstrong, writer of The Young Team. Some of our recent success stories here. Very recent is Jade Mitchell, who was a student last year on the MLIT. Jade has just been named a recipient of the Scottish Book Trust 2025 New Writer Award, which is fantastic. We have Stuart Docherty, who actually Stuart's MLIT major project was picked up by a young film screenwriting residency program. And he was able to work with a mentor for a year and ended up being commissioned by Sky Arts for a sitcom series called Robert. Margaret McDonald is a recent undergraduate, and Margaret's just been signed up by Faber and Faber Children's for a 2-book deal, and the first book will be Glasgow Boys. And then we've also got Hannah Lee, who's another MLIT 2021 graduate and is now a writer on Coronation Street. So there's lots of different ways you can use the skills you learn on the MLIT. Some other successes that have happened in the last 2 years, we've had students on the MLIT be published in Sundog Literary Magazine, in New Writing Scotland, in Neon Magazine and Gutter Magazine. We've had someone nominated for a Shirley Jackson Award. Someone has won Nonfiction of the Year at the Scottish Mental Health Awards, been employed as a script editor on the Shetland BBC TV series, won a UK-wide Creative Futures Award for marginalized writers, got a job as a PR executive at Neon Hive, which is a PR and marketing agency that specializes in video games. And we've had students move on to fully funded PhD programs, both here and at other universities. And we have many more and many more to come. So we're really proud of our community of students and alumni, and we do all we can to support current and former students, so helping them to find opportunities for publishing, jobs, further study, and so on. You know, this community is something really important to us, so it's something that we nurture and that we celebrate. Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit into the details here and talk, first of all, just the overall structure of the course for full-time students, and then I'll go through the modules one by one. So the overall arc of the program is really a movement from being more taught in class to then having more and more freedom to explore and make decisions on your own. So the overall goal is that students are leaving the course with a strong portfolio of work, including that quite substantial major project, but also learning a wide variety of new techniques and abilities that they can then carry with them out into the wider world. So in semester 1, you'll take 3 20-credit modules, and these are the Shape of Stories 1 and the Writing Life, plus either the Writer's Studio, Poetics and Practice, or another module chosen from a list across the Department of Humanities. And this semester is more tutor-led. You'll be probably not so surprised to hear that a year will go by really quickly. So in this first semester, this is where the conversation already starts about the end of the course, particularly your major project and where you want to be by then. So you're already starting to think about this. Now, similarly in semester 2, you'll take 3 20-credit modules. So we have the 2 core modules, the Shape of Stories 2 and the MADE project. And on these modules, work starts to become more student-led. So there are still, of course, taught elements, but both core classes provide greater freedom in some different ways. And now you can choose as well an optional third module, either from English and creative writing or elsewhere in the Department of Humanities. And this might include the ECW research placement, which I'll speak a little bit more about shortly. Now, semester 3, which is over the from April to August, mid-August, this is your opportunity to work on your own on an extended piece of creative writing of your choice. Well, you won't be completely on your own because you'll have a supervisor from the creative writing team. So it'll be one of us, one of the people that I mentioned earlier. And you'll get 3 meetings with them over this major project period. Now, there's only 160 credit module in semester 3. So this is all you're working on. So by the time the course is completed, you'll have this really significant body of work that you can then take with you. Okay, so I'll go through some of the courses or the classes individually now. So in Shape of Stories 1, this is the core workshop module, and this is all about different writing principles, different craft elements and techniques that apply all across different genres and forms. So this will be led by Dr. Raj Glass, who is a novelist, a short story writer, and a nonfiction writer. And in this class, you'll look at case studies of contemporary writing, and you'll sort of draw principles from these studies that you can then apply to your own writing. And both the reading list and the sort of the different things you can write are really varied here. So it crosses genre and form. You're going to look at fiction, nonfiction, screenwriting, poetry, and hybrid forms. And so you can write whatever you like, really, as long as it's in agreement with your tutor. And there are 2 assignments here. There's the quick creative. So this is responding kind of in a more like generative, quick way to an element of craft that you've studied on the course. And then there's the slow creative, which is a bit of a more polished, considered piece that you work on throughout the entire semester. Okay. The second core module in semester 1 is the writing life. So this is a really interesting module because it's more industry focused and it's focused on the contemporary literary landscape. So that's specifically thinking about publication in literary journals, magazines, and so on. This is going to be led by Sarah Bernstein, who is a fiction writer and poet, and some of you might know her as the author of the Booker Prize shortlisted novel called Study for Obedience. Now, a big part of this module is the visiting speakers. So we have 6 visiting speakers for the first 6 weeks of the module. These will be professional writers, so writers who work in nonfiction, fiction, screenwriting, and poetry, as well as writers who might have editorial experience as well. So you'll have Q&A sessions with these writers. You'll be able to ask them questions and hear a little bit about their experience in their writing life. The assignment is twofold. So it's kind of a unique thing. You're asked to write a creative piece in the main assignment, and this piece is specifically tailored to be submitted externally to writing competitions, journals, magazines, or to be sent to an agent. And you have to write for a deadline here. So you actually have to choose a publication that has a submission window that runs at the same time as the course, and ideally submit to them. And yes, we have had students who have been published off the back of this assignment before. And then the other part is writing a critical profile. So we ask you to really research the publisher, magazine, or journal that you'll be submitting your work to and actually write a critical profile about them. And the rationale behind this is it will really, really increase your chances of being published if you can do in-depth research on the target. We call it, the submission target. It'll help you understand also how these things work and just generally be really good experience that you can take forward as you continue submitting. So some of our speakers that we've had on the Writing Life include, we've got Kirsten Innes there and Michael Peterson below. I think Michael Peterson has just written a novel, but he's also a poet and a nonfiction writer, and Kirsten Innes is a fiction and nonfiction writer. And we also had visits this past year from Chitra Ramaswamy, Heather Perry, and Rochelle Atala. Now, in the second semester, one of your core modules will be the Shape of Stories 2. So this follows on from the Shape of Stories 1. And this is our core workshop class in which we'll read case studies by other writers and in which you'll have lots of time to work on your own creative work in whatever genre or form you wish. So this is particularly focused on structure in narrative storytelling across genre and form. And who better to lead this by our screenwriting expert and novelist, Dr. Andrew Meehan. So Andrew will prepare you over the course of the semester for your major project, and you'll be able to dedicate time in this class to developing these more sustained writing ideas, perhaps working towards that larger piece of work. It also includes an assignment where you will write a synopsis for your major project. So yeah, we've got some of the recent texts here, Room by Emma Donoghue and The Bear, written by Christopher Storer. So yeah, I know that this is a really, really interesting class every year. I think this year Andrew even looked at Paddington 2, which was pretty popular. Okay, and the other main skills module for semester 2 is the MADE project, which I teach. And this is a really fun module, and it's quite different, I think, from what is offered in other programs. So this module encourages students to play, experiment, and try new things, and specifically to experiment with different kinds of forms and mediums. So basically, you're asked to write 3,000 words of prose or equivalent in poetry or screenwriting, but then use that writing project to create something with other elements. So those elements could be like visual art or audio, physical objects, digital pieces. There could be interactive storytelling, performance. I mean, the possibilities are pretty endless. And this year, for example, I've got students who are making zines, short films, making performances. I've got someone doing ceramic sculpture, someone doing podcasting. Two are doing one, there's one interactive map that's a Strava map, and there's one geocache map. So yeah, lots of possibilities here. We also do have a couple visiting speakers. Again, we're always making use of this really wonderful community we have around us of writers. And a big part of the module is visiting the Alasdair Gray Archive, which is a resource that we're so fortunate to have. And so in these visits, you'll get a chance to look at the creative commissions. And this is a series, this is a partnership between Strathclyde and the Gray Archive. And each year, we commission a writer to write something that is responding to Gray's writing, his life, or his work. And you'll also have a talk with that year's creative commissioned writers. So this year we're going to have a talk next week actually with Sarah Sheridan, who wrote the 2025 Creative Commission. And now once you've made it through all that and you end up in semester 3, it's time for the major project, which you will have been thinking about all year. And this is a core module that you must take in semester 3 of the MLit. And you can work in any form or genre you'd like, but it's going to be basically a dissertation of 15,000 words of prose or the equivalent, which is agreed with your supervisor, for poetry and screenwriting. And you're not totally on your own, so you'll have individual supervisions from staff members with relevant expertise. So we pair you consciously with a supervisor. If you're going to be doing screenwriting, you'd probably be working with Andrew. If you're doing poetry, probably working with Maria or Sarah, for example. And your supervisor supports you with and gives you feedback on your work, but ultimately the planning, the research, and the writing of the project is up to you. And just as an example of our optional modules, so we have the Writer's Studio, which is an optional module for semester 1. And this is led by Dr. Maria Sledmere, and Maria is really an interesting poet and experimental writer. In this class, the emphasis is on process and thinking about your creative writing as practice-based research. So to ask questions like, where does your writing take you in and out of the room? And what fields do you want to explore through creative practice? So Maria creates a really generative space here where you think about your own writing process and you think about the influence of other writers, artists, and critics on your work, rather than just focusing on the finished piece of work and writing this polished piece, you actually think through like, how do I write? What do I learn through the writing itself? And so on. And another optional module is the English and creative writing research placement, and that's run by Dr. Eleanor Bell. So this placement is great for students who want to gain practical research-based experience in an area that, professionally you might have some interest in, and that is relevant to the MLIT. So this could involve working with a publisher, a literary agency, an archive, or a gallery, but you might want to use it to look towards any kind of future career interests. And you're supported on this module, so you're supported in developing reflective and professional skills, and you'll get the ability to articulate these skills. So this placement runs in semester 2, but you are invited to attend 2 workshop sessions in semester 1 and 2 in semester 2 that sort of support you in making the most of the placement. And here are just some examples of places where previous students conducted research. So obviously the Alistair Gray Archive, the Strathblane Community Library. So this student created display materials for the new library and promotional videos. There was the Irvine Maritime Museum. So a student researched sea monsters for museum display materials. Students have also had placements at Rig Arts, at the Woodland Trust, and at Biggar Museum. So as part of your studies here, we really encourage students to take advantage of all this amazing literary communities that Glasgow and the rest of Scotland have to offer. And we maintain really good working relationships and partnerships with lots of organizations. So not just the Gray Archive, but also Good Press, the Glasgow Review of Books, the Boswell Book Festival, Gutter Magazine as well. And other points of interest might include the Glasgow Zine Library, the Glasgow Women's Library, category is books, Oran Moore, and so on. So we do invite students to really explore and be fully inspired by the city of Glasgow. And we do our best as well to announce events as they come up. So we try to do to make students aware of all these wonderful events and opportunities that the city has to offer. I think Raj likes to say that if you wanted to, you could attend a literary event every night of the week in Glasgow, or maybe between Glasgow and Edinburgh. So we're really, really lucky here. And we're also very proud, of course, of our wonderful facilities at Strathclyde. So the library with a variety of study spaces and also a huge range of online materials and online resources. We have dedicated departmental librarians who will also help you find whatever you might need. We have excellent IT services as well. So of course, free Wi-Fi all over campus and software like Microsoft 365 that you can download for free. We also have a disability and well-being service that offers a range of specialist advisors with expertise in disability, health, mental health, and counseling. So they can support students in various ways, including one-to-one counseling, mentoring and study support, and well-being programs related to mindfulness and stress management. We also have the wonderful Strath Union. So this is a student social hub with study spaces, food and drink, social events, and support services. So of course, we really, really encourage all students at Strathclyde to take advantage of these facilities and these services. And we're always very happy to direct you to what you might need in this regard. Now, something that we do every year with the MLIT is the Strathclyde Review. So this is a completely student-led annual journal publication. It's a full journal that features creative work by our master's students and is completely edited, designed, proofread, printed, and promoted by the student team who work independently. Of course, we will provide any guidance or support you might need, but the emphasis is really on this as a student project. So initial funding is provided for printing and so on, but in the last couple of years, we've seen students hold fundraisers and raise funds in other ways that can then go towards having a launch or even having multiple launches, as I think students last year did because they raised so much money, they had multiple launches. And this is launched in August, kind of mid end of August every year. I think that it will take place in Mono this year, but it has not yet been formally announced, so don't quote me on that. But this is a great opportunity for students who are interested in exploring different aspects of the publishing process. And it's also just a really nice like material object you can take with you as a sort of memento and as the culmination of all your work on this MLit. So another thing that we put quite a lot of work into and we're really proud of is our events program. So every year we host a number of public events that are free and that are open to everyone. And these will range across genre and form and sometimes be in partnership with other organizations. So in the last year or two, we've hosted the launch of the latest Gutter magazine. Alasdair Gray Day 5 recently happened with a performance by Sarah Sheridan. Gray Day happens every year. Every year it sells out pretty quickly, so you want to get your tickets ahead of time. We're also going to be partnered this year with the Boswell Book Festival of Memoir and Biography, and we're going to be able to take our MLit students for free for a day of the festival, which is really great. And we've also in the past hosted a poetry showcase with the Glasgow Review of Books. And I have to mention this because it happened yesterday and it was such a wonderful event. We had an evening with Jackie Kay and the Macars. So that included Michael Peterson, Liz Lockheed, and Hannah Lavery. And we also held a public poetry workshop with Jackie Kay in the daytime, which was attended pretty much exclusively by MLit students. And it was great. We have, as part of our learning and teaching building, we have Jackie Kay Plaza. So this event with Jackie, both the evening sort of performance and reading and the workshop will be an annual thing as well, which is really great. And yeah, we've also recently had a screenwriting event with Andrea Gibb and a poetry workshop with Ariana Rains. So we're always thinking about, who we can bring in and how they might complement the classes and the teaching that we offer here, both at an undergraduate and postgraduate level. Okay, so that's everything for now. Thanks so much for listening. I hope this was informative, and yeah, I'd be happy to answer any further questions at this point. You can see that mine and Raj's email addresses are here, so you're very welcome to email us with any questions, and if you'd like to speak further about anything at all. So thank you very much.